It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Thank you for being with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thank you, Chad Erickson, for that lovely introduction. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes, including a conversation with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, his weekly Wednesday hit with myself and men I will introduce in a moment. Robin Lundberg swings by, does a great job on the WNBA for SI on the news of Diana Taurasi's retirement after a 20-year WNBA career and really one of the great careers in all of sports. Forget basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball, just an incredible career, a winner all around, Diana Taurasi. And we will start things in the NBA. There's some Bryson DeChambeau news I want to get to a little later on in the show. Sean McVay making some news on the Matthew Stafford front. We'll get to that in odds and ends as well. But we start things out in the NBA, and look who's here if it's a Wednesday. You know, they say if it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press. Well, if it's Wednesday, it's Vladimir Lewisant hanging out with us on the show from WQAM in Miami. So I watched the Lakers and Mavericks last night in Los Angeles, and Kurt Helin was there, by the way. So when he joins us, he'll have some great insights, given the fact that he was actually there for the revenge game, which I think is funny because I don't think Luka Dončić probably really viewed it that way. I think it was more.
It would have been if Anthony Davis was playing, because it's not a revenge game unless you go back to the arena that you played.
Yeah, I agree with that. So they had the revenge game last night, and the Lakers come out victorious. It wasn't pretty, but they were able to get the win late. You know, LeBron did some great things. Luka had the triple-double in the game. And it got me wondering, Vlad, as we watched this Lakers team, which, you know, had a couple of hiccups just before the All-Star break and then just after. They lost to the Jazz. They lost to the Hornets. You start saying, all right, what does this team really look like? You're still kind of getting your feet under you with Luka. And then you watch them here, you know, over the last few days where they go into Denver and beat a Nuggets team that had won 8 in a row. Obviously, this is a Mavericks team that, while playing very hard for Jason Kidd, you really don't know what they are until you have Anthony Davis out there for a prolonged period of time. You know, I mean, look, the Lakers could wind up the 2 seed in the West. They could, which means they avoid Oklahoma City until the Western Conference Final. Is it crazy to think the Lakers could wind up in the NBA Finals?
No. Because you got Luka and LeBron, but what's scary for the league is that once that trade happened, everybody didn't think they were going to be a title contender, right? They were just thinking, oh, they're going to mesh, they're going to get their chemistry together, and then next season would be the year that they really make a move. Well, guess what? They can get to the NBA title, the NBA final this year, and add more players next season to make it a real formidable championship window for the Lakers. It might extend LeBron a couple of more years. I didn't know how they were going to do it because they didn't have a big man, but I knew they had capable wings. And what they did against Denver and what they did against the Knicks a couple of weeks ago is what they do is they make your defenders, your best offensive players, exert a lot of energy on the defensive end and on the offensive end where they got to make a decision immediately. You got to give credit to J.J. Redick. People ripped him. People ripped the idea when he got hired. Oh, this was a LeBron hiring because they had the podcast. No, J.J. Redick has been, and people across the basketball landscape will tell you, he's a basketball mind. Like, he's really a great basketball mind. And you could tell when he was doing the podcast that he really wanted to coach. Even when he was broadcasting with ESPN, he had knowledge of the game. And what he's been able to do before the Anthony Davis trade and now after the Anthony Davis trade and getting Luka Dončić, they've been one of the best defensive teams in the league over the last 15 games. So that's weird to me because you had one of the best two-way players, one of the best all-around defenders in Anthony Davis, and you were 23rd in the league. And then now you're in over the last 15 games when you're 12-3, you're number 1 in the league. That's impressive.
Here's what it is to me, though. they're not beating Oklahoma City in a 7-game series. So they have to hope Oklahoma City gets picked off. I think they can beat anybody in the West except for Oklahoma City. Because as much as we want to talk about defensive efficiency and what they've done here as of late, they've got so many bigs that they could throw at them over in Oklahoma City. Now look, Oklahoma City has its warts despite their record. They're not a great perimeter shooting team. They didn't really do a lot. They didn't do a lot to improve that at the deadline. The one thing I love about the Lakers is how many open looks were they getting in that game? It might have been a fairly low-scoring game, and they didn't win by a lot. And some might argue they should blow out the Mavericks without Anthony Davis.
No, Kyrie Irving still plays for the Mavericks.
I agree. I agree. And look, that team is playing really hard for Jason Kidd. If you want to say one thing, Jason Kidd is the right head coach of that team. That team plays hard. There's a lot of pride in everything that team does. And I love all the open looks they're getting. They're going to have to obviously knock some more of them down. But to me, I still think Oklahoma City is the one team in the West they can't beat.
I would say that, Jason, because you're thinking about Chet and Hartenstein, who the Knicks are missing tremendously now. But the Lakers do have a lot of veteran savvy players in Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, who low-key was a great acquisition in the trade for D'Angelo Russell. They got him from Brooklyn, a guy who's played with Luka and knows how to, and played with JJ Redick, who knows how to play defense. He knows his role. I think with the Lakers, they have so many great supporting role players who are champions in their role. They know they've been so many they've been role players on so many playoff successful teams that they know what to do playing alongside LeBron and Luka.
Will the Luka trade go down as the worst of all time? Will that Mavericks-Lakers trade go down as the worst of all time for Dallas? I know it's early to say, but it is fun to wonder.
Dallas, for Dallas, yes, it might go down like that. And it's not going to happen. You know, the basketball gods are going to have them play each other in the playoff, and Luka's going to go.
You can't get that lucky.
It's going to happen, bro. It's going to be a 2-7 matchup. Lakers, Dallas. It's going to be all over the television screen, and because you got too much star power, you got so many star players, great players that we've seen in postseason past that's done tremendous work. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait for that.
I can't wait to hear what it was like over there at Staples last night from Kurt Helin, who will join us coming up in about 16 minutes here on the show. And we'll get some thoughts with him on this matchup between the Lakers and Mavericks last night. The Lakers going forward, a whole bunch of other topics from around the NBA. But when we return, Diana Taurasi retiring. Robin Lundberg will talk about it next. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap. I feel like we've talked a lot of WNBA in the offseason. Seems like there's always something to talk about. And Tuesday gave us more news with the retirement announcement of Diana Taurasi after 20 years in the WNBA. Really just one of the all-time great winners in all of sports, period. I want to get some thoughts on it with Robin Lundberg, who does a great job on the WNBA with SI, the Robin Lundberg Show over on YouTube as well. I don't think anybody could really be shocked. It seemed like she was leaning this way, towards the end of last season. And, I loved the way that she sort of described it yesterday, just basically saying mentally and physically, she's just full. I think that's a great way to describe it.
Oh, I mean, yeah. And of course, and how wouldn't she be? She's been eating for 20 something years, right? Like that's really I posted a picture on my X account yesterday. You see like Gino Auriemma with no gray hair next to Diana Taurasi. And then you see Diana Taurasi embracing Caitlin Clark, as like the veteran figure, sort of the voice of the WNBA in Caitlin Clark's rookie year. And that moment was kind of all right, you've really arrived, you've proved yourself. And that shows you that journey, right? Like Gino Auriemma can be a young man. She can be there for this entire path and then get to this explosive point in women's basketball and was probably the most important figure in between.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about how long the WNBA has been around. She's been around for, the majority of it, the vast majority of it. When you think about what she's accomplished in her career. A lot of people, I know last year or the year before, she was voted as the greatest of all time when you talk about the WNBA. Is there a special place, and I know this might sound a little fast forward in terms of thinking, could you envision a scenario where they retire her jersey number around the entire league?
I mean, yeah, it would be justified. I mean, I don't have an issue with it, right? Like, I mean, she was voted the GOAT whenever they did that. I forget when it was, but they did some big thing around it, and she was dubbed the greatest of all time. So I'm not against it, and certainly it could be the way to do the retirement tour, if you will, that she didn't get this past year. But these things aren't necessarily necessary either, because she's getting her flowers. Everybody expressed their love for, Clark put something out, LeBron James put something out, Paige Beckers put something out, Rebecca Lobo, Gino Auriemma, Kathy Engelbert, everybody came out and expressed their praise for Diana Taurasi. So I think the appreciation has been very ample and evident. A
lot of people, look at Caitlin Clark and, act as if she's this revelation that she's doing things that we've never seen done on a women's basketball court or on a basketball court by a woman. And I look at Diana Taurasi, and she was doing those things 25 years ago, Robin. When you look at her, her path through UConn to where she is now, and she came into the league, I think, with even more pressure on her shoulders, because at that point the WNBA hadn't really, been established. Try and give some perspective on sort of her place in history and what she was able to accomplish.
Well, I would, I'd push back on some of that, because I think what Clark did was unprecedented statistically. Like, she came in and did things that had never been done before by a player, much less a rookie. And the discourse around her was so great and so heated that there was a ton of pressure. But what I would say about Diana Taurasi is, for all of that, like, everybody asked, I call it the WNBA reverence tax with Clark, where when she, you mentioned her, you have to talk about the greats that came before.
Sure.
But if you were to say, like, who was the single pioneer, above it, and there's plenty of greats, Candace Parker, Maya Moore, but Diana Taurasi is the face of women's basketball prior to that. And if there's one person you give the most credit for the building blocks and laying the foundation for their being able to be a Caitlin Clark, I think it would be Diana Taurasi. And she was the player, to your point, that I watched before and would go, okay, she's got that competitive fire. She's got that flair in her game. And she would have been the player I singled out and said, that was my favorite player to watch, or, who is a women's basketball player. Like, number one answer on the Family Feud would be her, along with Sue Bird and Candace Parker and more, who I mentioned.
For people who hadn't watched her a lot or seen her a lot and are maybe big NBA fans, would the most apt comparison be Kobe?
I guess the Mamba part of it, I don't think her game was completely Kobe-esque, but I mean, she's the all-time leading scorer. I guess when you talk about, like, I think it makes sense because of the other stuff, because of the, trash talk and the spirit and the spunk and the even the thing she said about Draymond Green in the timepiece, like, apparently at the 2016 Olympics, she told him, Draymond, how does it feel to be the only player here who's never been double teamed? Like, that kind of.
That's great.
That kind of so stuff, I think does allow for that to be the most apt comparison or most apt name that you bring up in reference. I mean, Taurasi, kind of a combo guard in a lot of ways, it had some of those flashy passes where you're like, okay, like, again, like that boogie in her game, but she was a pure scorer, a pure winner, and all that. So I think, Becky Hammond brought up Jordan and Kobe, so who am I to argue with that?
Do you get the sense she's going to stay close to the game, or does she strike you as the type that pulls away and lets the next generation have their say? Do you see her involved, with another team, whether it's ownership? Does she strike you as that type?
Well, if you remember, when Clark came in, a lot of the talk around Clark was framed through Taurasi's comments about the realities coming, of the league. And therefore, look, in our business, that's a good thing, right? She's able to say something like that. Not only does she have the gravitas, but she's able to deliver it and in entertaining fashion. And considering her close relationship with Sue Bird, who's also migrated well to a post-playing media career, I think it makes a lot of sense for Taurasi to have some sort of vehicle built in that regard. I don't know what her personal ownership goals or anything like that is, but she's punchy, she's funny, and she obviously is a voice of authority. So I could see her maybe aligning with Bird, or, you know, being brought in as a big time media analyst in some sort of vehicle like that.
Yeah, we've seen her, you know, her personality shine in a lot of these things where they do like these Manning cast sort of things with the WNBA and different sorts of broadcasts, and she's really shined in those roles, Robin. I think she'd not that we want more competition here in the media, but I think she'd do really well. Robin Lundberg does really well. He does a great job with SI on the WNBA. Also, check out the Robin Lundberg Show over on YouTube. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
You got it, Jason.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap on this Wednesday. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBC Sports is next. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of the show. We continue the basketball talk. It's Wednesday, and that means Kurt Helin is here. Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Vlad rejoins the conversation as well. As Vlad said, I can't stand women's basketball. You talk to Robin Lundberg by yourself. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Vlad didn't say that. Matter of fact, he actually said the opposite. He was like, I'm going to go see Unrivaled because Vlad lives in Miami. So he's like, I'm going to go see Unrivaled. He's like, I got to give love to the ladies. And I was like, I respect that. I think that's very noble of you to go and support that Unrivaled league.
Entertaining.
Huh?
Yeah, Unrivaled's been entertaining. The one-on-one tournament was a lot of fun.
I got to ask you, though.
My favorite player in basketball right now is a female player. I love watching Juju Watkins, but he's my favorite player. But nonetheless, let's get to the NBA.
Kurt, I want to ask you, Kurt, when you think of Diana Taurasi, because, I mean, look, it doesn't matter what you cover. We all know who Diana Taurasi is when we do what we do for a living. When you think of Diana Taurasi's career, what comes to mind?
Yeah, she's a GOAT. Like, she's in the conversation. She's got the LeBron level GOAT thing in the sense that it's not just 3 WNBAs, 3 NCAA championships. Was it 5 or 6 gold medals off the top of my head?
6.
I'm forgetting the 6 gold medals. It's the longevity. I mean, she's retiring at 42, but she was elite up to the very end. She was playing at a high level to the very end, and that is a testament to like her work ethic, her competitiveness, not just her game, but like what you've got to do to have your body and your mind ready for that long and not lose focus is unparalleled.
Yeah. I don't think it's a question of whether she could have continued to play, but what else is she playing for at this point? Is kind of what I think.
It's also, she's not the, Kobe has said this, like I've heard quarterbacks, other people say this. When you're a great player and you get to choose your exit, which is rare, it becomes less about what you can do and are you willing to put in continue to put in the work on your body and do everything that you have to do to get yourself there. Yeah. And there comes a point where they're just like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't have that anymore. And they walk away before it gets ugly.
Yeah. And she played. Go ahead.
Lucky for her. No, I just like to say she's the one athlete that, especially for the women's game, she's revered like Kobe, but her greatness was like LeBron.
Yeah. And she played, and look, at the end of the day, she played her entire career in Phoenix. Played her entire career for that franchise. So she will always be a legend in that city. Luka Dončić didn't play his entire career in Dallas because he got traded to the Lakers. And then last night he showed up. He wanted to. He showed up in Los Angeles last night ready to go. Triple-double. Lakers beat the Mavericks. You were there. Set the scene and sort of paint the picture for what you saw.
Look, first off, it absolutely had a playoff, like, frankly, second round of the playoff game vibe. I mean, the crowd out in front, the energy from the crowd from before the game to the massive amount of media that they had to move the JJ Redick pre and post game pressers into the larger space the Lakers sometimes use for big games. It was a crazy vibe, and a lot of Laker fans there to cheer on and support Luka and thank Nico Harrison. There were thank you Nico chants during the game.
I saw that. I saw that.
Right.
He was at one point, like, I don't know, in front of me walking down the tunnel to go to the back, in front of a few of us. And as people are lined up at these tunnels to get, autographs or high fives as guys go in, and they're like, hey, thanks, Nico. Thank you. Like, fans were thanking him personally as he goes down the tunnel, and he's just walking through, like, just living. And I thought Luka, look, he was emotional early, picked up that early technical. He said after the game it was hard for him, and he was glad to have the player support. But he settled in and was making not just the amazing no-look pass, but he looked like Luka. He was making plays. Other guys, as the defense gravitated toward him, Austin Reeves made plays. LeBron took over with 16 in the fourth. Like, everything opens up. When those three guys are on the court, they became a very difficult team to stop.
Kurt, I've noticed something with LeBron over the last, say, 6 weeks or so, and maybe even more so now that Luka is there. He's been a beast on the defensive end.
Yes.
And now that the ball is no longer in his hands, he's rebounding better, playing better defense, has the energy now that would have been used a lot on offense. Now is it being saved because you have Luka and also the emergence of Austin Reeves, that he no longer has to be on the ball so much. He could be cutting and save his energy for performance like he had in the fourth quarter last night where he scored 16 points.
Yeah, I think that's JJ Redick talked about this after the game, that he doesn't have to conserve anything anymore. He's not conserving anything. He's not saving anything in the tank. He's like, I'm going to go get it done. When the Lakers needed defense, they went and got it. They need help. And I think it ultimately is what does them in the playoffs. But look, when you've got Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt and some guys who can defend on the perimeter, what you really need is somebody to clean up the back end, get some boards, kind of be intimidating in the paint. LeBron can do that to a degree. I think ultimately you can target it a little bit, but in the regular season, the Lakers are also, they're just playing hard now. This is an energized team. I think it's the same with the Warriors, right? Like, they're all of a sudden like, hey, we got a shot to be pretty good here. And you see a different level of energy from them night in and night out.
Kurt, would you pick against the Lakers in any series other than Oklahoma City?
And Denver.
I'd probably still pick Denver. I know they beat Denver this week, but Jokic figures things out. That was a poor Jokic game from him. That said, that's a 6 or 7 game series now. I think you can ultimately, over a series, the Lakers still need a big man in back to protect the rim and defend for them, but they're close. They're hard, and they're going to win games just because Luka's going to win you a game. LeBron's going to win you a game, and they're capable of reaching the conference finals. And by the way, I don't think that about the Warriors right now, but I definitely think that about the Lakers.
Neither do I. But Kurt, this is why I think this is very scary for the league, because once this trade happened for Dončić for AD, we thought the Lakers were playing well. They were making a move, but nobody felt like they were going to be a contender. Yeah. Then after the trade, they were like, we'll see. Maybe the Lakers may make the playoff, but we don't expect them to do anything. 3 weeks after the trade, now you're thinking they might be a sneaky NBA final contender. And that scares me from the rest of the league, because that means free agents next season are going to want to come to the Lakers because of what they saw with Luka and LeBron already.
We only got 20 seconds. Go ahead, Kurt.
I'd say if you're making the minimum, why wouldn't you want to go there? Why wouldn't you want to go play with LeBron, chase a ring, be in Los Angeles? So if you're one of those guys on that level where you're choosing your destination because you're just going to make the minimum and you want to go after a ring, or you're going to make the mid-level, Los Angeles suddenly becomes, it was already viable, but now it's really viable.
I need some Knicks therapy because they can't beat anybody. My God. They can't beat anybody that matters. No, maybe Kurt can talk me off the ledge. More NBA with Kurt Helin next. All right, one more segment with Kurt Helin from Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Vlad is here too. I need some Knicks therapy, because every time I'm like, all right, now they got Anunoby back. Still can't hold a candle to the Boston Celtics. Will Mitchell Robinson make that big of a difference, Kurt?
No. I'm sorry to do this to you. I know you need therapy, but mean, you live in Los Angeles. There's a dispensary on every corner, and it's legal. That's Mitchell Robinson will help, but they are not a. Again, the problem they've got is their two best offensive players.
But they're the two worst defensive players.
Yeah, exactly. The guys I'm going to go at, I'm going to put Brunson and Cat in a pick and roll every time. And Brunson's gritty and tries. He's just 6 foot, and you're going to be able to get over him and with big guards. And Cat's not really a great defender, and you're just going to. I don't think there's an answer against good deep teams. They're a good team. They might be the third best team, probably are the third best team in the East. But the gap between them, as we saw last week, between them and
vast.
It's the Grand Canyon. It's Grand Canyon between them and Boston and Cleveland.
No, because it's no.
I got nothing. I got nothing, Vlad.
There is nothing. It is what it is.
By the way, you sound like every Knicks fan I know, which is suddenly just written off the season and
resignation. Definitely some resignation.
Resignation, and how are the Yankees? So.
It is because they thought they had Eastern Conference Final, NBA Final aspirations, and at best they're going to be another second round exit.
They're good. They're just not. There's a gap.
All right, let's move away from the Knicks then, because that was just depressing. It did nothing for me.
I'm already on the draft already.
Oh, Jesus. Wait, why? Because the Knicks have drafted so well over the years?
I'm talking about the NFL draft, because I know the Jets. I know the Knicks are going to be out in the second round, so you might as well start looking at the NFL draft.
All right, fair enough. Stay in the East for a second. How about Detroit? I mean, when they lost Jaden Ivey, I kind of thought, all right, it's been fun. But what they've been able to do here, 6 games over 500. They're the 6th seed. They could potentially get the Knicks in an opening round matchup, which I don't know if the Knicks want to see that or not. Give me some thoughts on what Detroit has been able to do here.
JB Bickerstaff might be coach of the year, first off.
Very good.
And it's a huge upgrade because he cares, which puts him ahead of the Monty Williams from last year. Cade Cunningham is healthy, made the leap, and is such a great facilitator and smooth and lives in the mid-range and kind of takes the shots. You're like, well, we'll give those up, and he'll just keep knocking them down. There's not a lot of guys you want shooting from the mid-range a lot. Cade is one of them. And that has opened up everything in their offense. He's finding Jalen Duren. He's finding other guys who can score. And this team is starting to come together in a way that's, look, they're just fun. They're like the best story in the NBA this year because of the turnaround, because they were the worst team in the NBA, not just last year, but the 2 previous seasons. And they have found a way to get this whole thing going.
But hold on, Vlad. Give me 1 second, because I got to hit the read, and then you can jump in here. Got to talk about our friends over at Credit Associates. We haven't talked about them yet today on the show. Are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt, in over your head, trying to make monthly payments? Well, there's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades with one affordable low monthly payment. Credit Associates Debt Relief Program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. That's going to save you thousands of dollars in decades in debt. Find out how much you could save right now. Call 1-800-747-5362. That's 1-800-747-5362, or just scan the QR code below. Okay, Vlad.
Well, speaking of debt, do the Piston fans owe Cade Cunningham some debt? Because there was a time I'm happy you mentioned Cade, because I really think he's shown his playmaking ability this season more so than years past, and he's shown that he's a better all-around player than before. Cade was getting ripped as a top pick who's not living up to the expectations, but this season with the All-Star nod and what he's doing leading him to a 7-game winning streak, Cade is showing us that he's legit.
He might well win Most Improved, and I think that's a real possibility for him, just because I think there's a lot of voters who would like to give it to him for the steps he's made. And he stayed healthy, which I think is also a big part of it. But he's made it, just like you said, his playmaking, his ability to set the table. There aren't many players in the league with a better feel for the game than Cade Cunningham, and that's what kind of makes him special. Is just he just kind of always makes the right decision. And by the way, All NBA. Absolutely in the mix for him, with considering the injuries that are out there that are wiping guys off the map, and guys aren't going to get to 65. He could make it.
There used to be 3 All NBA teams, right?
There are
Back in the days, there's still 3?
Yeah.
There's still 3?
15 players, right?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Kurt, before I let you go, there's been times where we've hammered Minnesota this year. All of a sudden, that team looks like it's starting to come together and play better. Are they dangerous out there in the West?
Dangerous, yes. I am really curious to see what happens in the next week or so when Julius Randle returns. They got to bring him off the bench. Part of this run, part of the energy you're seeing from this team is that Naz Reid is just a better choice in the front line. He spaces the floor, makes the whole thing fit better. You can bring in Julius Randle, let him pound the ball with the second unit. But that said, it's opened up Anthony Edwards. Their defense is starting to come together again. What they did to Oklahoma City with that 16-0 run, by the way, that looked bad for Oklahoma City. I will tell you that there were scouts who said there's the way you beat them, double Shea and dare anyone else. That said, that they did that shows the grit of this team, and man, they'd be a really tough out.
Yeah, I agree with that. We got to go. I didn't even get to the Grizzlies, who had played a wild one with the Suns last night. What was it, 299 points scored in that game? We'll get to them next week, though. I'm bookmarking it. We'll talk about it next week. Kurt, always appreciate it, my friend.
Take care, buddy.
Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Some Matthew Stafford news. Sean McVay talking about him on a very good podcast. We'll get to that coming up in a few minutes. And since I can't sell Sam Yarnell on ABS in Major League Baseball, maybe I could sell Vlad on it. Or maybe I don't have to sell Vlad on it. We'll see coming up in about 10 minutes. But first, something to consider. Vladimir Lewisant, consider this. There are rumors circulating that Bryson DeChambeau could wind up back on the PGA Tour. Huh? After he just went and took all that money? So here's the story. The Pull Hook podcast, whatever, it is what it is, says that Bryson DeChambeau requested a $280 million contract extension from LIV's Saudi financiers, and LIV has reportedly rejected it. Meaning that Bryson DeChambeau, when his contract runs out, either at the end of 2025 or the end of 2026, could return to the PGA Tour. Now, nobody is exactly sure when that contract expires, but DeChambeau is one of those guys. And I mean, look, there's a lot of other guys whose contracts are going to be up around that same time. Cameron Smith, Brooks Koepka. All of a sudden, if LIV Golf falters, could we wind up seeing these guys come crawling back to the PGA Tour saying...
It's not crawling back. Relax. It's not crawling back.
Saying, hey, let us back in. Let us back in. But if you're the PGA Tour... But hold on. If you're the PGA Tour, do you make these guys pay a fine? Is it a hefty fine? Do you make them sit out a year? What do you do?
No, because you made the deal with the LIV last year to merge.
Well, you haven't yet, because look, we can say they're going to. It's been a year and a half. But hold on.
You did.
But hold on. They've been saying for a year and a half it's going to merge.
Guess what? You verbally did. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't act like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you left us. Oh, now you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay for leaving us. Well, we're going to, you can't be petty when you actually try to join forces with them.
Players on the tour. I don't know. There's a lot of players on the tour who feel very strongly about the fact that these guys should have to pay a price to come back.
But you know what? There was a lot of
players run the tour. And the players run the tour.
And there was a lot of players on the tour that was feeling a certain way about LIV, and then all of a sudden they were backpedaling a year and a half ago. So,
I agree.
So what's it going to be? You can have it one way, and then the next day have it the other. It's got to be consistent. So if you had never said that a year and a half ago, then I would be like, hey, you have all the right in the world, because you felt a certain way and you stood on that. You were 10-toed on, we don't want any of these players that went to the LIV Tour to join the PGA, because they turned their back against us. That we didn't like the way those people in Saudi Arabia, how they treat, humans and all of that. So they didn't want to get involved with them. Then all of a sudden, in a year and a half, when they started losing major players and tournament drawers and the ratings weren't the same, then they started to say, hey, maybe we should work with them. So
here's what I would say.
Unless you tell me you don't want to work with them anymore and that's it, you can be petty. But
here's what I would say. I think the PGA Tour, I think all these guys got to swallow their pride, because for the sake of golf, they need these guys back. There's no getting around the fact that the tour has been hurt and injured by these guys leaving. And some of these guys are going to have to get over it and say, look, for the betterment of golf, because Tiger Woods has even said recently, some of these guys could be back this season. That there is a possibility, and Tiger Woods would know. He's deep into the, sort of belly of these conversations. Tiger has suggested in recent weeks, LIV players could be back on the PGA Tour sometime this year. So now look, there are other aspects to this. The PGA Tour doesn't want these guys doing their own things on YouTube. Bryson DeChambeau's got a huge following on YouTube. There's a lot of things about this that sort of need to be worked out, because Bryson's got his own brand. Bryson's got his own brand.
So if guys are making revenue off their own brand, they don't want to be told that they can't do that.
Nope, they don't. I agree with that. But you know what? Ultimately, the tour needs these guys.
Well, ultimately, the tour
they need each other. Frankly, we could argue they need each other because if Bryson DeChambeau is willing to take obviously less money to play on the PGA Tour after making all this money with LIV, if he's willing to come back to the PGA Tour, I think he recognizes, look, nobody's watching us on LIV. I hate to say that, but nobody's watching.
Nobody watching, it still doesn't do anything for their legacies and their careers. Like, they still want to win. The more majors you win, the more of a legend you become. And they want to become legends. You know what I'm saying? So you're not able, if you're only winning, you're only able to play the majors, and you're not playing in the tour. The tour is the tour. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's the NBA, there's the NFL, like that's the major golf tour. It's the PGA.
The one thing I'd push back on is the idea that some of these guys care about becoming legends. I think some of these guys just want to make money. I think some of these guys are just in it for the bucks. They're just in it for the dollars.
But you're not going to, but even if you finish third in a major, that's a lot of freaking money. That's probably more money than you might make at winning a LIV tournament.
Well, you don't make a lot of money at a LIV tournament, but you get a lot of upfront money.
You get a lot of perks.
You get a lot of upfront money, See if some of these guys make it back this year. I wasn't a fan of them leaving. I made my statements on it, but for the betterment of golf, they all need to come back.
Golf needs it because the TGL ain't it.
Odds and ends are next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Tomorrow, maybe David Ardsma will swing by. We'll see. Former MLB reliever hangs out with us on the show. Get some thoughts with him on everything going on around baseball. I want to know what he thinks of ABS. I'm just trying to rally as much support for ABS. We need ABS in baseball. 2026 looks like it'll be the year. What'd you say, Vlad? I didn't hear you.
You don't want humans working anymore?
No. Well, damn the unions, squash them. I'm kidding to all my union friends.
No, I'm not saying union. I'm saying humans.
Oh, humans. I thought you said unions. We'll squash the humans too. All right, stand by. It is going to be odds and ends here in just a moment. But a reminder, make sure you check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. We're on all of them. And now you can watch Sports Wrap on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel, Decibel 88, and go and check it out. And you can watch the show there. All right, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends presented by our friends at Credit Associates. Boy, oh boy, did you see Luka Dončić last night. A triple-double in the win for the Lakers against his former team in the Dallas Mavericks. Blocking them from victory? Yeah, just like your debt is blocking you right now from having peace and quiet in your life. Are you $10,000 or more in credit card debt in over your head trying to make monthly payments? Well, there's a powerful debt relief program the credit card companies don't want you to know about. Overcome the debt trap of multiple credit cards, high payments, and high interest rates that keep you in debt for decades, and you can do it with one affordable low monthly payment. Credit Associates Debt Relief Program can help you resolve your debt in as little as 24 to 36 months. And you know what that does? Saves you thousands of dollars and decades in debt. Find out how much you could save. Call 1-800-747-5362. That's 1-800-747-5362 with Credit Associates, or just scan the QR code below. Odds and ends, Vlad, and it looks like maybe the end for Matt Stafford. Maybe not the end for Matt Stafford when it comes to his time in Los Angeles with the Rams. As Sean McVay says to a couple of very smart guys, the Fitz and Wit podcasts, that their first priority is to try and figure out something here with Matthew Stafford. Yeah, I mean, look, he helped lead that franchise to a Super Bowl.
It's been nasty. It's been nasty. It's been nasty ever since they won the Super Bowl, because they made the trade. They won the Super Bowl the first season that he got there, and it seems like to me the last 3 to 4 years they've been trying to get rid of him, or it's always been to the last minute they've gotten a deal worked out. If Stafford wants a 5-year deal, I can understand the Rams being like,
3?
Hold on.
But 3 years?
But a 3-year deal, when you really get out of it in 2, you're talking about a team that made the wild card a season ago, won the division, and gave the Eagles the best comp out of all the teams the Eagles faced on their way to the Super Bowl. And you're the best team in the NFC West with the best quarterback. I don't get it. Great young defense. You have a young nucleus who are all under rookie deals. So I can understand if you want to pay Stafford, you want to keep him for a year or two. It all depends on what Stafford wants. His wife is she's on podcasts and all of that talking. I see him going to New York.
Wow.
I see him going to
New York.
Going to the Giants. Yes, I see him going to the Giants, and I also see the Giants giving up the 3rd pick. You know my theory about the Giants and certain quarterbacks. They don't draft. So I can see the Rams. I see Shedeur Sanders going to the Rams.
Wow. That would be something.
I see the Rams trying to get Shedeur Sanders, and I think that's the fit. I think they want a young quarterback that they can have, like in the way of C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels.
You kind of blew my mind. You kind of blew my mind just now. I'm not going to lie.
Hey, because nobody thought about it like that. Yeah, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to get drafted by the Rams. The Rams are making a move. When you hear this over the last 2 seasons, it's kind of like a divorce, but you don't want to be the one to say it's a divorce, so you're kind of forcing the spouse or the significant other to be the one to file for the divorce or say they want to be separated. Because that's what the Rams are doing to Stafford right now.
I'll say this real quick because I want to get to ABS. To me, if you're the Giants and you're getting Matthew Stafford, you better shore up that offensive line, because you got to be able to protect him. He's not, he's kind of a statue back there. They're going to have to protect him better than they've protected their quarterbacks that they've had recently. Last but not least, automatic ball strikes. We love robots. I am continuing to champion this cause. Every day this week we have talked about it. I just want give me ABS. Give me ABS.
No. I need the human
You need crap calls. You need bad strike 3. You need balls at Aaron Judge's ankles being called a strike, Vlad.
I want the batter and umpire to fight and argue. I want the manager to run out and give the umpire like 3 minutes of the worst things some human could possibly say to another human. And I want him to get kicked out, and I want the crowd to be happy. With a robot, what are you going to do? You can't beat up a robot. You can break a robot, but then what's going to happen? No, stop.
I can't get anybody on board with me. Sam hates it. You hate it.
Dude, you want to live in a world where just humans are just not going to be important anymore.
I talk to my Google Home all the time. That's all I do is talk to it. It's going to do it for us. Thanks to Robin Lundberg. Thanks to Kurt Helin. Thanks to you, Vlad. We'll see you back here next time.